Hello and welcome. I am Ladi Akeredoluale. Tonight, Nigeria, South Africa and Benin Republic straighten out tough economic and bilateral issues on the sidelines of the ongoing Tokyo International Conference on Africa Development in Japan. 24 hours after the U.S. announced a review of visa fees by Nigerians, federal government slashes visa fees for Americans effective from Thursday. Inspector General of Police Mohammed Adamu seeks better collaboration with Interpol and Immigration Service to track down criminals abroad. And controversy trails the Queen's approval of Prime Minister Johnson's request for suspension of the UK Parliament from mid-September, a few weeks before the Brexit deadline.
On Business News tonight, the Central Bank of Nigeria reviews prudential guidelines to commercial, merchant and non-interest banks as part of efforts to ensure a healthy financial market.
On Sports News tonight, Bolton Wanderers FC survives liquidation with the sale of Old English Club to Football Ventures Limited.
And from Abuja, federal government accuses IMN leader Ibrahim El-Zakzaky of plotting to turn Nigeria into an Islamic nation as court rejects Showere's application challenging his detention by the DSS.
Japan is building new ties and frontiers with Africa, and that exactly is the focus of the discussion at the ongoing Tokyo International Conference on Africa Development, TICAD, holding in Yokohama. President Muhammadu Buhari is among the continent's leaders attending the conference, which has also been another avenue for some African leaders to discuss critical issues regarding their diplomatic ties on the sidelines of the conference. One of such discussions was between President Buhari and his counterparts from South Africa and Benin Republic. The killing of Nigerians in South Africa and the partial closure of Nigerians' border with Benin Republic came to the front border. Our correspondent, Ibrahim Adra, reports.
Reprendre vos places, s'il vous plaît.
President Muhammadu Buhari takes his place among other leaders at the opening ceremony in Yokohama, Japan. In his remarks, the host, Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, lauded the numerous achievements of the conference since inception. He is particular about health care, infrastructure, capacity building and agriculture. Mr. Abe says there is more to come.
I would like to introduce an idea that new TICAD came up with, aiming at fostering Africa's prosperity. This is the first time I have spoken of this idea. The idea is Japan's new approach for peace and stability in Africa, abbreviated as NAPSA. NAPSA would work in cooperation with the AU and regional economic communities to support conflict prevention and mediation efforts.
Other speakers are the chairman of the AU Commission, President of Egypt, and UN Secretary General, amongst others.
Investing and improving education is another key to unlocking Africa's potential. Much more work is needed in this area to expand access to education and to enhance its quality. We must equip people of all ages for work in the 21st century.
There were more speeches delivered during the plenary session. Away from the first plenary of the conference, President Muhammadu Buhari met with his counterparts from the republics of South Africa and Benin. Now, there are no full details of the meeting, but some issues of concern came up.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
One of them is the killing of Nigerians in South Africa.
We feel very sad about that. And obviously our criminal justice system is working on it. We want to to stop all killings. Nobody should ever be killed, even if there's a dispute amongst people.
President of Benin Republic is worried about the closure of borders between both countries. The closure is said to be necessitated by continuous smuggling across the borders.
Nigeria closed the border with Benin, and it's causing great difficulties for Benin. And so the president said that he had to see our president as a matter of urgency, and because of the great problems that that's causing.
President Buhari is scheduled to talk at the third plenary Thursday out of the 6 scheduled for TICAD 7. From Yokohama in Japan, Ibrahim Adra reporting for Channels Television News.
We'll have more on the Japan-Africa relationship in the course of this newscast. Well, back home in Nigeria, less than 24 hours after the U.S. announced that Nigerians would have to start paying for their visa approvals, the federal government today said it has decreased the visa charges payable by U.S. citizens in line with the reciprocity policy. The Minister of Interior, Rauf Aregbesola, approved the decrease in a statement signed by the Director of Press and Public Relations in the ministry today. The statement says there had been engagements with the United States Embassy on the issue, following which a committee was set up to conduct due diligence in line with the ministry's extant policy on reciprocity of visa fees. The committee thereafter recommended the reduction, but the issuance of authorization for that was delayed due to transition processes in the ministry at the policy level. The Comptroller General of the Nigeria Immigration Service has also been directed to implement the decrease in Nigeria's visa charges to U.S. citizens with effect from Thursday, that's tomorrow, August the 29th, 2019. Moving on to security matters, the Inspector General of Police is seeking better collaboration with Interpol and the Immigration Service in tracking down criminals abroad. Mr. Mohammed Adamu mentioned this at the closing ceremony of Interpol Week in the nation's capital, Abuja, where he asked the officers present to apply the lessons from the event to their duties. The event was organized in a bid to drive global collaboration towards effectively addressing prevailing and emerging crimes in Nigeria, the Sahel region, and other countries in Africa.
For a forum of this nature, the greatest outcome is often measured not only by the knowledge gained, but also by the strength of the professional network that has been established among and across all participating agencies and personalities. I am convinced that in the course of the events over the past few days, a strong professional bond has been established amongst you all. This will in no small measure assist you to fully utilize the tools and capabilities of Interpol National Central Bureau towards attending your individual agency's mandate in our common drive towards enhancing internal, regional, and global security. In essence, I'm assured that as we wind down this event, we can all confidently return to our duty post with the self-confidence that we now are equipped with the requisite knowledge and strong professional bond to truly make the world a safe place.
Now, as promised, we go back to our top story where we're taking on a discussion on Japan's new love for Africa, especially with the ongoing Tokyo International Conference. We're now being joined on the news at 10 by Mr. Charles Nnanuju, who is the director at the Center for China Studies in Abuja, to discuss Japan's interest in Africa. He joins us from our Abuja studios. Mr. Nnanuju, welcome. First, let me ask you, Africa appears to be the toast of everybody right now. First, it was the U.S., then China, and now Japan. What do you think is responsible for this interest?
Yeah, Africa is commonly referred as a new frontier, the new industrial frontier, the most unexplored continent of the world. So it's getting quite a lot of attention. And actually, Japan-African cooperation is not new. TICAD is almost 26 years old. The first was held in 1996. And it's been going on. And I think the engagement and the prominence of Africa currently in global affairs is, of course, a recognition of the role she could play. And I think engaging with Japan, which is a major country in the Pacific Rim, Asia Pacific, which is the most important region in the world, about 40% of global trade takes place in the Asian Pacific. I think the interest of these important Asian countries, Japan, China, Korea, is also very, very important for Africa. Yeah.
Now, there were feelers that Washington was not too comfortable with China's romance with Africa. Now it's Japan joining the fray. Do you see this as creating some kind of Cold War, if you like, between these countries on who Africa should be doing business with? Or do you think the US and China will feel threatened, both of them, by Japan's moves in Africa?
Yeah, but Africa should be interested in global partnership. Africa is open to partnership, to any genuine. African space is too wide to accommodate all kinds of partners, including the United States, South America, Asia, Japan, China. Absolutely, it is in Africa's best interest to engage the world a lot more robustly, and that is exactly what it's doing. And what is important is to convert this global attention into tangibles, into deliverables, into practical improvement in the living condition of African people. So I think this attention is very important. It is important to leverage policy options, to leverage this, this attention Africa is receiving. And like I said, China, Japan, Africa is not in for grab. It's not a second scramble. It's just that Africa has become prominent. Africa has become important. Her contribution to global governance is gradually being recognized. And it is also important for Nigeria and Africa to recognize a shift of the center of gravity, a shift to the Pacific region. Even the United States pivoted. It did what it called pivot from Europe to Asia Pacific. And it is important for us to recognize this shift. This shift is not only been happening, there are institutional underpinning of this shift. China has launched the so-called Belt and Road Initiative, which is a global framework of connectivity and engagement. Japan is also launching new framework for cooperation with Africa, in which it held its private sector as the key driver of cooperation with Africa. These are critical initiatives that Africa can leverage upon to address some of its key existential challenges, ranging from human capacity, ranging from infrastructure challenges, and others. So I think it's in Africa's best interest that it is being paid serious attention. Of course, this does not mean that our traditional friends, the West, Americans, Europeans, should be ignored. My take is that African space is too wide to accommodate all interested partners who are genuinely interested in engaging Africa. I do not think it's about rivalry. Some of
the objectives you've mentioned, from the visuals there, you'll see a number of African leaders are there. Do you think that those leaders are now able to negotiate for the kinds of deals that produce the kind of benefits you've just described for their various peoples?
Absolutely. I agree with you completely. There is a challenge of sufficient governance capacity on the part of Africa to leverage some of this attention, because if this attention are not properly leveraged, it could go the way of the olden days. So there is a need for greater understanding of the international system, the shift that has taken place, the change that have taken place, to evolve a paradigm that captures these basic essentials. There's no need to be locked in the traditional way. International system is completely changed. It's completely overhauled. There is a new shift. So it is important to recognize this, develop new capacity to engage them, develop new governance approaches to engage them. And that is the only way Africa can get a lot of takeaways.
Thank you very much, Mr. Charles Onanuju.
But like I said,
Mr. Onanuju, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so very much. Mr. Onanuju is the director of the China Center for China Studies in Abuja, and he joined us from our Abuja studios. Thank you very much. In part two, after the break, bandits on rampage, killing 2 in Taraba and abducting 15 women in Katsina. Please stay on with us.